No, I don't like that. If you weren't aware, I am trying to rebuild this Porsche 911 to drive down the entire Pan America Highway, all to raise money to save dogs. Now, because we are trying to drive 20,000 miles, that means a few things. I need this to be reliable. And if you look up the history of Porsche 911, especially the G model, especially the 2.7 magnesium cases, those two words do not go hand in hand. But we're gonna try to fix that. The past few months, I have been disassembling, measuring, learning all that I could about this engine. And the more that I've learned, the more that I realized I might have been scammed. Now, maybe not purposely scammed, maybe like 2 people away of this Porsche scammed, but this engine is not what I was led to believe that it was. All in the purpose of trying to rebuild this engine to make it efficient to drive 20,000 miles straight over the course of 2 months. Initially, I had thought that I had majority of the pieces to reassemble this. All I needed to do was change out the gaskets and I was good to go. I have now learned that was naive. Very naive. Even though I've been fairly naive about this process, I've been learning so much about this car, so much about this engine, and what needs to happen. Unfortunately, the need versus the budget is a little different. I'm not a big YouTuber, as you can tell by the followers I have right now. So we are still on the effort to monetize this channel to raise funds for Galgos del Sol. We cannot do that without you, so please like, comment, subscribe. It will go a long way to help me getting this car on the road and dogs into homes. There are a few common problems with air-cooled Porsche 911s like this one. And specifically with the magnesium engines like I have, there are different problems that need to be addressed. Some of these we have already ordered the components and they're easy plug-and-play components. The biggest issue with these is the fact that they're air-cooled. There's not the stereotypical system in modern cars of today that cool it down. There is no radiator in the front. There is no coolant in the engine. It is just oil and air going past it. That creates overheating and that creates a slew of problems. So we're addressing that a few different ways. One, we have bought a proper oil cooler that'll go at the front of the car. Instead of being compacted in the back of the engine where it can't breathe really well, we're gonna put it up front. This itself is gonna solve a lot of problems. Number two, we're gonna be upgrading the cooling into the engine. So, you know what that means? Whale tail, baby! Yeah! Yes, we're gonna be getting a whale tail and modifying the cooling going into this engine. More airflow in, more airflow to the oil. Both of those things will help keep this engine significantly cooler than it used to be. Cooling is just one part of the problem. Another issue is the case material. This engine is made from magnesium. It's nice and light. I can pick it up, it's not an issue. But magnesium is soft.
You have a weak one.
And so when you have soft magnesium plus overheating, what you get are pulled studs. Not studs like this guy, studs like that. They will rip right out of there. And as I've dug into this engine, I have found the fault with this engine. It had suffered some catastrophic failure of a pulled head stud. I have realized that I have to redo all of the head studs, every single one of them. If I want this to be reliable and drive 20,000 miles in one go, it has to be done. It's a must. There's no way out of it, unfortunately. I maybe tried to trick myself into thinking that they were already done, but it looks like only one cylinder was completed and it looks like it needs to be redone. So that's gonna be one of the first steps, is getting that completed. Once I fix all of these head studs, then we can actually start the assembly process. So what's next? Cooling, we've got that figured out. We have the components, we know how it's going to work. I'm less concerned about that one. Head studs, yes, it's difficult, but we have the tools to do that, and that solves a lot of issues with strengths of the case. Now the next issue is the timing chain and tensioners. Those are known to fail. It's a matter of when, not if. Now luckily, there are already kits made to solve this issue, and we have ours. So that means we have our cooling solved, we have our case strength soon to be solved, and we have the kit to make the timing chain reliable.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
And unfortunately, that brings me to the last and likely the most expensive part of rebuilding this engine, and the part that makes me feel a little scammed, maybe a little led on. When I bought this car, there were only about 75,000 miles on the odometer. Now, with that amount of mileage, these cylinders should have been fine. The cylinders and the pistons should have had more life in them. It should have been as easy as cleaning them up and putting them back in. Naive issue number one, Matthew. Now, the original engine was in a fire, so it was not included in this purchase, but he had a similar 1977 2.7 engine, something that would have been the exact same in this car. I originally was led to believe that this only needed to have the head studs done and a new gasket kit. I've come to learn that is very wrong. When I was growing up, I learned that there are three things that an engine needs to run: fuel, air, and spark. And to problem solve an engine that wasn't running, check one of these three things. Do you have gas, and is that gas getting to the engine? Do you have spark, and is the engine getting air? However, there is one larger component to this that is absolutely necessary for an engine to run well: compression. Now, an engine needs compression for proper combustion. By compressing the gas and the oxygen into a tighter package, it allows for a greater explosion. So in theory, higher compression, higher horsepower. I'm embarrassed because the neighbors are right there. We got a scary person here. An engine needs compression for adequate combustion. By compressing the gas and the oxygen, that puts into a neat little package for the explosion to happen. Now, how does an engine do that? That's with the piston and the cylinder. On the first stroke, the piston pulls oxygen and gas into the cylinder. On the second stroke, that piston is moving back up and compressing all of that gas and oxygen into that tight little package. Then the spark comes in, exploding the piston down, creating the power stroke, and then the final stroke pushes all that gas out of the cylinder. That's the four-stroke engine that we're going after. So what happens if you don't have compression? Well, what is that called? Why can't I think of that? One issue might be a misfire. Because it's not compressing effectively, you might not get ignition. Two, because you don't have as high compression, you're not going to have as much horsepower. Your engine is going to be sluggish, is going to struggle, is going to run very inefficiently. So how do you lose compression? That is both a simple and complicated answer. The simple aspect of it is you have a lot of leaks in your cylinder. There are a lot of spots for all that pressure to go. The complicated answer is there's multiple spots where this can fail. The first spot is between your mating surfaces and where the gaskets lie. Those gaskets can fail or the head studs can pull, and that creates gaps between your surfaces. It's those gaps where the pressure can escape and you lose your compression. The second spot are in your cylinder heads. There are valves in there that allow gas, air, exhaust to flow in and out of your engine. Now, if those surfaces are not tight, again, pressure will escape out of those surfaces. And now the last spot, and what makes me the most concerned about this engine, is between the piston and the cylinder wall. Now the last spot where you might lose compression is in between the cylinder and the piston. And unfortunately in the late 70s and the early 80s, Porsche used inexpensive coating materials to bring down production costs that unfortunately do not stand the test of time. These cylinders are generally seen as a one-use item, and if you're rebuilding your engine, you can't use them again. Now, I've spent way too much time going through all of these threads to figure out if I can reuse these cylinders or not, because again, I'm on a budget. I don't have expendable income to put into this engine. However, even if the state of these look good, which they don't, there's one other factor that makes these unusable. Now Porsche has set tolerances that let you know if your cylinders are reusable or not. And those tolerances are everything from how much wear is on the side of the piston, how much wear is inside the cylinder, and ultimately how big the gap is between the piston and the cylinder wall. If this gap is too big, it's considered not usable. Now, a quick way to check this before diving into all the nitty-gritty details is to check the gap with the feeler gauge. Now, Porsche calls out for most of their cylinders a maximum gap of 0.15 millimeters. And unfortunately, with this feeler gauge, it goes way in. So we are way past the wear limits of the piston and the cylinder. That effectively makes these useless. And because they are the Alisil cylinders, we can't reuse them.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
It's not a coating that we can put back on there. We can't put a Nicosil coating on there because the pistons aren't compatible with that. So unfortunately, these are just paperweights at this point, which are really, really disappointing. But there is a silver lining. Even though these are not usable, the Porsche community has already reached out, and there's a few guys who possibly have some Nicosil cylinders that already have some life still on them. Now, how much life? I don't know. We're gonna have to measure those and figure out how good or how in spec they are. We might just have to buy new ones, and that's okay too. But that would be super clutch if we have some secondhand ones that still have some good life in them. So I'll find that out shortly if I have a few of those coming. Otherwise, we'll be dropping some cash, dropping some moolah, some hot dough, as no one says. So putting these away, and I don't know why I'm saving them. I should just pitch them, recycle them, whatever, but these will likely sit in the corner of a basement somewhere. I don't know. Why? I don't know. Klepto in me, pack rat in me, I don't know. Maybe one day I find out they work. I don't know. But goodbye. Goodbye, Porsche parts. All right, so even though we have a little bit of setback with both these cylinders, pistons, and machining the case, honestly, that's all likely probably for the best, because again, we want this to be drivable for at least 20,000 miles consecutively, because again, we are trying to get this from the top of Alaska down to the bottom of Argentina, and so I need this to be reliable. So having the case well machined, having good cylinders and pistons, that's just going to remove a whole lot of headache down the road. But even with the headache, we can move forward. And so we're starting with the step one of rebuilding this 2.7 magnesium flat six Porsche engine. Mouthful there. Who cares? Whatever. We're rebuilding it. We're starting with the crankshaft. And so we have all of our pieces. We have our bearings. Everything is cleaned. We have measured and inspected this. It is good to go. Everything is good to go. It's just big Legos at this point. For those who don't know, I am a 3M'er, lifer 3M'er. That is my main gig. And so as I look at this, what's screaming at me is myself saying, hey, surface preparation is the key to success. So that is where we are at. We have a little bit of alcohol here to wipe down the surfaces that we don't want any sort of lubrication on, to make sure that when these bearings sit in there, they're not going to get spun, there's not going to be any issues. So surface preparation is your best friend. So let's start there. So yeah, a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of wipes, lint-free by the way, so shout out to my 3M'ers where lint-free disposable wipes, that's what you want to use right there. Yeah, and we're just kind of getting any sort of last oil off of the rods here. Take your time. Take your time. This is patience. Learn that patience. It's beautiful. Bearing surfaces are clean. It is dark out. My hair is looking funny. Yeah, now I got a neat little boat, and we can just kind of strategically pop these into place. And so like they have like a little spot You're not gonna be able to see that, but little lip, those fit in. One of those moments I get, am I doing this right? So the other thing to be concerned about with these is each rod has a little stamped number on the side, and you want to make sure that those match up, and that when we assemble them, they're on the same side. Weird angle, but like, you want to see this and not this pretty face. We have one on. It was just kind of a test that I wanted to do without y'all watching to see if I could screw it up and what I need to know. And I'm like, okay, it's freely spinning. I have this, you know, figured out. It is not torqued down yet, so I'm gonna get them all on, and then I will get them torqued down properly. So essentially all that I'm doing is just lubing up the surface that need to be lubed up. And so since these are getting so torqued down, basically using a little bit of assembly lube to lube up the bearing, lube up the threads, and lube up the surfaces that these nuts are falling on. Like, we are using more lube than the adult industry right now. We are gonna have no friction at this point. So let's get all these on. Two down. Lube, 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 lube. All right, we've got everything assembled. Everything's lubed up more than Ron Jeremy right now. And now we're starting to torque these up. And so the latest and greatest for torque specs on this are, especially with these bolts that have the 12.9 that are on them, is torque it down to 10.5 foot-pounds, and then it's a 90 degree, and then another 90 degrees. So I've gone through, again, a little bit of embarrassment. I don't want it on video sometimes in case something goes wrong. But I've gone through, everything's down to the 12 or 10 and a half foot-pounds. And so now it's the joy of getting these torqued an additional 180 degrees, which I think is going to be a bit of a task. So enjoy this. Sippy. All right. Now, a good way to do this is I'm gonna put a Sharpie marker that does not go on here. Awesome. Gotta find another Sharpie. Sharpie marker. Oh, Sharpie marker, where are you today? Oh, look at that bastard. Look at that. Oh, whoo, whoo. That smells good. Let's see if I can. Oh yeah. All right, so I got my mark on there, and so I want that 100% over. It's funny, these things are just so good. All right, let's see if I can do this. Whoa. So that is 90. Hot damn. All right, let's try to do another one of these. All right. Almost. Oh, bitch. This is the part that I'm like, ruh-roh. My rig is not great. Oh, it does make you feel quite strong, you know? Where I'm like, these I'm out of breath. These bolts are designed to stretch their one-time use, and so like you're He-Man and you're stretching metal. Like, whew, I need a break. Okay, coming back. Damn. All right, I didn't get them all torqued down. I got one. The others are tightened down. The first one's torqued, just kind of wanted to test it out. It was also late. I was tired. It was midnight, and I had just dropped all my tools on the floor. It was very sad. So we're gonna come on back and torque the rest of these down. It does make me feel like He-Man because it's powerful. Here we go. My rig is not great, but it's something. We all can laugh about it. I don't disagree. Don't know how to do this angle. I need a fixture that doesn't move. Oh, I almost had that one. Oh my God. I am strong. Bitch. Did I round it? No, thank God. Don't recommend torquing this way with a fixture that you can't hold in. This is dangerous. Yatch. I don't think this is the Porsche approved method, but at least I'm getting it torqued down. Well, in typical fashion, I forgot to charge the batteries, so the grunting's over. The sultry torquing of the bolts. You don't have to live through that anymore. But the crankshaft is complete. Everything torqued down, everything's smooth. I'm just kind of right there staring me in the face. It's all completed. That went fairly smooth. The rig's the best I got. That thing was crap. I know it's crap, but it's all that I had, and I'm making do with the pieces that I got. So that's complete. We have decided we are going to ship off the case to be machined professionally, looking at the risk versus reward. It's just one, I know I could do it, but if I screw that up, there's bigger issues down the line. So that'll be sent off this weekend to be machined properly. And there's some other goodies coming along. But again, we're in the right direction. We're in the right progress. And thanks again so much for watching. I do hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Every bit of that is helping us to raise funds for Galagos del Sol and to get dogs into homes. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all. Deuces.